Marketer of the Day, episode 544. AWeber Email Marketing Automation. Create your mixtape autoresponder sequence. Maximize deliverability, build relationships, and 10 times your results. With Tom Tate.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. I think right now, I'm not sure if I'm freaking out or I'm excited or I'm fangirling here. We're talking with Tom Tate from AWeber, and I mean, this is huge. Tom Tate is the product marketing manager at AWeber. They're an autoresponder company. They're one of the oldest that I know. I recommend them to all kinds of people. And Tom has almost a decade of professional experience in marketing and technology, and he educates and engages small business owners and entrepreneurs on the incredible value and opportunity that email marketing and automation provides. And at AWeber, Tom manages product education. He produces multiple webinars, he presents at conferences, and he writes blog and website content. And outside of AWeber, Tom is an active member of the marketing community, and he teaches and guest lectures at local colleges and universities. So Tom, glad to be talking to you.
Thank you so much. That was a long intro, but I boil it down to I really just enjoy connecting with people and talking with people. And one of the best ways to do that was with email. So I'm just so happy to be on the show today and talk about it.
Yeah, and I mean this, you're, like I said, like you're AWeber. I mean, you guys are huge. I think I used AWeber in maybe 2004, 2005 or something, and I still have an account for testing purposes, as far as I have like a sequence in there and shared campaigns. So I tell people in some of our courses to get an AWeber account, put in a special code, and now they instantly have an autoresponder sequence. And so as far as, email marketing and things like that, it seems like every year for the past 10, 20 years, I keep hearing email marketing is dead, and I keep waiting for it to be dead. So, I mean, first off, what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, that's a really great observation. It keeps popping up year after year. Everyone says email marketing is dead. And I think in a lot of ways, email marketing is dying, and it's dying because marketers are approaching it the wrong way. And I love talking about email because I think when you boil it down to its most simplest parts, it's actually a really easy medium to master. And I think it's far from dying. And one of the things that I tell some students that I teach in a marketing course here in Philadelphia is I tell the students to pull out their mobile phones. And I ask them to take their phones and check to see if they've received an email in the past 2 hours. And of course, everyone raises their hand. And then I say, how about 1 hour? And everyone's still raising their hand. How about the past 30 minutes? And everyone is still raising their hand. So I think as much as we think that email might be a bit archaic of a medium, so many of us rely on email every single day, and it's become a part of our daily lives, and we have access to it on our mobile devices, in many cases with push notifications. So if you're a marketer and you get all of your loyal fans to give you permission to opt in and say, I want to hear from you through email, we basically have the opportunity to contact our fans, our audience, whenever we want through push notifications. And I think that if we leverage that power and that privilege, it's so effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm right there with you as far as not ignoring this whole email thing. And like, it's really tempting to go with the cutting edge stuff and throw out what works, right? And you see, like, a lot of people say I have a huge social media following on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And when I see that sort of stuff, I'm like, okay, well, that's great that you have that huge social media following, but that also exists on someone else's land. If Facebook wants to next month cut your audience reach in half, they can, and they might. Whereas when you build an email list, sure, sometimes things might get filtered or marked as spam, but it seems like for the most part, you're building your own list. And I mean, I'm such a big believer in email here, Tom, that I pretty much send an email to my list every weekday, and usually it's some kind of a launch campaign. And at first I resisted that sort of thing when I was worried about so-called, hammering my email subscribers. But I realized that if I blended the pitch and the content with those email messages, and I had fun with it and did things to like deliver value and have catchy subject lines and keep things short most of all, then that wasn't too difficult. And the other day I dumped out my whole sent message folder, and it was something like 800,000 words of just broadcast emails I'd sent to my list. So, I mean, I'm a huge believer in email. And so if people are looking into email marketing for their business, either to get it set up or to get it amped up, I mean, first of all, why should they use AWeber? And what the heck is an AWeber? I've always wondered.
Yeah, so two great questions. The first question, and you mentioned you used AWeber back in 2004, 2005. So I've been with AWeber for about 4.5 years now, which is only a fraction of kind of the life of the business. AWeber was formed in 1998. So this is before Gmail was even a thing. So this is way back in the early days of email marketing. And we basically founded our product on email automation, on the Autoresponder, and the ability to send automated sequences of emails based on a time interval that you choose when somebody subscribes, when someone's added to your list. And that technology is something that our CEO, Tom Colzer, built back in 98. So there's a legacy there, and we've had so many amazing customers and marketers use the product over the years. And we have so many that are using it today and finding a ton of value. So the actual name AWeber, it comes from Tom, our founder, who was basically sitting in the office where he had to come up with the name for this product. He was ready to fill out the paperwork to make this an official business. And he had the product down, but he didn't have the actual name. And he was leaning towards automatic web assistant. And he wanted to kind of shorten that. So his initial reaction was a web ass. But of course, that wouldn't have flown over the years. So he ended up going with AWeber. And that's been our name ever since.
Awesome. I wasn't sure if it was like AWeber Grill or Andrew Lloyd Webber or anything like that. So so as far as like there's a ton of, I mean, since then there's been a ton of these different email marketing automation platforms crop up, but it seems like when I look at a lot of those, there's some that are mainstream that don't really get great deliverability. Some you can't get just the email part, you have to get this whole crazy system. Some won't let you even sell things, won't let you send affiliate links, and some even limit you as far as the number of emails you send. They're like, well, you can send 6 emails a day, and if you messed up one, well, sorry, now you're only, 6 emails a month. So they're like, well, now you can only send 5 more emails this month because you messed up one of them. And so with all the choices out there, why the heck should people be using AWeber above everything else?
So you mentioned deliverability. That is one thing that we really focus on. We want to do email, and we want to do email really, really well. And the most important thing with any email service provider is making sure that the message that you send hits the inbox of the people that you're sending it to, the people who opted in and said, I want to hear from you and receive this content. So we have a deliverability team that focuses full time on making sure that all of the servers, all of the IPs that we manage, and that's a technical term, but all the technology that we use to send your messages, we own it, we maintain it, we don't outsource any of that. And we have a full team that's dedicated just to making sure that everything looks good around the clock. So deliverability is huge, and we really pride ourselves on that. And the other reason is customer solutions. So we have a full customer solutions team in Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia, in our main headquarters. And this team works 7 days a week, and they are there to answer technical questions, but they are also equipped to handle your strategic questions as well. So if you're struggling with email marketing, not just, how do I set this up? How do I set up email automation in your tool? If you're struggling with getting subscribers, or if you're not quite sure what type of content to write, we have an amazing customer solutions team that you can call on the phone. And there are a lot of software products out there today that you can't call on the phone. And we really think that that's an important thing that we value. So we make sure that phone support is available for you if you decide to use AWeber.
Well, that is fantastic. And I totally forgot about that phone option there. That I've never had to use it. And like I said, right now I just have an AWeber account for testing purposes and things like that. But when I've recommended AWeber to people before, I've mentioned that when the question comes up, like, why do you recommend this autoresponder versus everything else? I'm like, it's the easiest one to get started with, newbie friendly, and you can call that 800 number and get help right there right away. But as far as like email deliverability and things like that. Did you see anything really obvious and easy that we should be doing to make sure that our messages get delivered?
Yeah, one thing that I didn't realize until I joined AWeber and I started learning more about email is that there are certain types of links that you might not want to put in your messages. So a lot of people use bit.ly links or link shorteners, and the link shorteners don't always have a good reputation in email deliverability. So if possible, when you can use the full URL for a link, it is usually preferable that you use that full URL. So that is one thing that we will investigate from time to time. Somebody might say, hey, my emails, they don't seem to be hitting the inbox like I expect them to. And when we start to dig in, one of the tips that we recommend after looking at the messages being sent is you're sending bit.ly links, maybe try using the full URL if possible. So that's one thing. Another thing is using really heavy images. So if your images are high resolution images, they take a long time to load. That could be another signal to Gmail and different providers that you might be attempting to send something malicious, in which case you might end up hitting spam. So those are two tips that I recommend. Be cautious with your images and be cautious with the links that you're including in your emails.
Awesome. Two great tips. So, and it seems like there was, I don't know, like there was a little bit of a dark ages, it seems like, from maybe early 2000s to late 2000s when there was that issue with the, like, it seemed like people were really coming down hard on those spam filters. And it seemed like for a while there that marketers were encouraging people to do some silly things to get around the spam filters. And like, for example, people would say things like, well, if you're sending out an email and you're using the word money, well, don't write the word money because the filters will catch that. Put the word money with a zero. And I'm thinking, but now if I see that, that's going to look really spammy. So does it seem like these days things are more civilized, that maybe with, the filters and the artificial intelligence, that maybe they're better and that we can just make our email and appear to be, or like be a legitimate business and not go for some of these silly email tricks?
Yeah, I think it's similar with SEO, where, the recommendation nowadays with SEO is don't try to game Google. Don't try to game the system. And Google is very, very smart. Putting the zero instead of the O in money, Google most likely, has caught on to that. So I think the most important thing is to just be focused on sending engaging emails that people want. And if you continue to do that and you do that reliably and consistently, your emails will be read by the right people. There are a few tips, though, that I definitely can recommend. One of the things that I always recommend is encourage your subscribers to whitelist you. They can add you to their contacts. And one of the best places to do that is to do that on your thank you page when they first opt in. So thank you, one more step. So really, there isn't one more step. They're on your list. They're going to continue to receive your messages. But always putting that one more step and then asking them to either take that message and drag it from the promotions tab to the primary tab. That's one recommendation that a lot of email marketers make. Or asking them to actually add your email address to their contacts could help you continue to appear in the inbox, have high deliverability. And then also, if being in the primary tab in Gmail is important to you, it could help you with that as well. We always say that there's nothing wrong with being in the promotions tab, especially if you are a brand or a business that is sending promotional email. That's where your emails belong. And there might not be anything wrong with that for your specific business. But that's one quick tip that you can definitely do, is just recommend that people do whitelist you.
Yeah, that's a nice little trick, and I have to make sure I have to go back and do that because I've noticed that it's fun to do those little things like that. Like, for example, a few years ago I customized my unsubscribe page. Instead of people just unsubscribing, I said, well, did you unsubscribe by accident? Do you want to rejoin on this other email sequence? And I've seen people do things more recently of like they'll have an unsubscribe link, and instead of it'll say like, if you want to unsubscribe, here you go. But if you
Sure.
want to just put things on pause until this promotion is over, so like you don't want to leave the list, but you also don't want to keep hearing about this offer we're doing right now, then click this and it'll sort of delay things a little bit, and then you'll hop back on. So I love little tweaks and tricks like that to just do something really quick and get something get a quick result out of that. And so, and also, since you brought up Gmail and that promotions tab, I remember when those tabs came out, when they first premiered that, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna always be stuck in the promotions tab, next best thing to the spam folder. But I mean, you're so right that that's not the end of the world, that sometimes we're in the mood to buy, right? Like if Amazon sends me that weekly email with some recommendations, I'm like, well, if that's in the promotions tab, no big deal. Who are we hiding from? And that brings up sort of an interesting point in, what are your thoughts on things like, how often people should email, or what should they be emailing about, or like how aggressive should they be about like sharing information versus selling? And I know it's sort of a loaded question because it depends on what you're after and what your business and your niche is. But I mean, just what are your thoughts on that in general, as far as like how aggressive or how timid should we be as far as our emails?
Well, I love that you mentioned earlier that you send a daily broadcast. And I think that a lot of people are afraid to send frequently because they're afraid that frequency is the equivalent of sending spam. But I think it's important to remember, and of course, as you mentioned, it's going to be different for every marketer, for every business, every brand. It's going to be dependent on the product you sell, the stories that you're telling. But there are a lot of people who listen to the same radio program every day, who listen to the same podcasts every day. They watch Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune every night. So there are people who every single day of the week, they do the same things. They engage with the same media. They read the same newspapers. They go on Facebook every day and read from the same people. If you're in the inbox every single day, you might have a large segment of your audience who want that, who want to hear from you, who want to engage with you. And if you're sending good content, if you're keeping them entertained, educated, if you're providing value, if your offers are relevant, and spaced out, so you're not trying to sell to them every single day, there's a place for that. And I think that if you experiment with that and you see that the response is high, you might be able to really 10x your email performance by tapping into those casual fans, the casual audience who's reading one email per every 2 weeks or one email per month from you. Now they're receiving an email once every day or once every few days. You're going to be in their lives more, and you have the potential to really have an impact. And that could have a tangential impact on your business. So I always recommend to experiment with frequency and to do it as a calculated risk, and don't do it with fear. And you can start by saying to your current list, I'm going to experiment with emailing more frequently, and this is the type of content that I'm going to send. If this sounds great, let me know. If this doesn't sound great, let me know, and you will get direct feedback from your audience. They will tell you, keep an eye on your unsubscribes, keep an eye on your spam complaints, and you'll know quickly if what you're doing is working or if you need to kind of pivot. But I love that you mentioned that. I think you can feel free to experiment with frequency. I always recommend to consider, I think storytelling is kind of a big buzzword in marketing right now, even though marketing has always been storytelling. But I think that you should probably look at your emails as another form of storytelling, not just within the emails, a single email itself. Like an email could and should have a beginning, middle, and end. But think of kind of an arc of emails that you can send over time. And you can kind of set up multiple emails to play out almost as a narrative. And that could help you agitate a problem that your product solves. And then, once you get towards the end, your product is positioned as more of a solution that they would want to engage with. So kind of a loaded question with a loaded answer, but hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, I love your mindset on that, and you're so right that a lot of people will tune in the same sort of stuff every day. And as you're describing this, it almost sounds like how like TV shows these days sort of balance the ongoing plot thread versus the episode to episode stuff, where if we can find that sort of balance there where we're sending out those emails, and if you miss a few emails, it's okay, but if you've been following all of them, if you're a real dedicated subscriber, then you'll kind of get that narrative, that storytelling. And it's sort of, I don't know, like there's definitely a period of time when the hot thing to do was to send the big long newsletter, right? Where there'd be like a table of contents, and we're going to have the featured article and the guest article and the quote and some resources, and it was like 10 pages long. And that was great when email marketing wasn't too crowded, but then as it got more and more crowded, then a lot of that stopped working. And I laughed a little bit when you'd see these people teaching product launches, and they'd say, send this exact email on day 5 and send this exact email on day 9. And I'm thinking, well, that works if someone's following you every step of the way, but what if like you said, what if I only look at your emails once every 2 weeks? So that's really helpful as far as like realizing who we're talking to. And then when you talked about experimenting and managing expectations, and about 10 years ago when I was sort of struggling. I was making about $10,000 to $12,000 a month, and the first month that I jumped up to $25,000, what I did, I was in sort of a little bit of a cash crunch, got hit with a huge tax bill, and I sent an email to my list saying, well, for the next 30 days, things are going to be different. For the next 30 days, the emails are going to be every single day, and I said I'm planning on giving you like not a new offer every day, but a new good reason why you'd want to buy this offer. And I'm going to share a little bit of a tip with you, and I'm going to tell you how this process is going as far as my income goals. And I encourage people to, reply to me and ask those questions and to get that feedback. And I was expecting to get a lot of haters, and I guess I got a couple, and I got a couple of unsubscribes, but it seems like it's easy to exaggerate the negative and to downplay the positive, and it seemed like there were a couple people angry, a couple unsubscribes, but in the most part the list loved it, and I never went back. And so I sort of amped up my email game, and at the same time I saw a few of my friends forget to email their list. And there's one friend in particular who let his list sit for about 6 months, and then when he came back to it, he emailed, and it was almost dead. Like half the list unsubscribed, and the little bit that was left didn't really click on much. So is that a real thing? Is there something to that in not letting your list go too stale? Is that a thing that is possible?
Oh yeah, definitely. You want to keep that list engaged because there are a lot of people on that list. Either they haven't been on for that long, or they weren't incredibly engaged to begin with. And then when you disappear for 6 months and then you come back with a broadcast, and unless that broadcast is really explaining where you've been for the past 6 months, people are going to scratch their heads and they're going to wonder, who is this person? Why are they in my inbox? And then maybe they'll recall way back when they signed up for an incentive that you might have had. But for the most part, you want to keep them engaged the same way that your favorite TV show continues to come back again and again when it's in season. And that's another thing too, is you can set up your email list to kind of have these cliffhangers and think about it that way. So if you know that you're going to be going away for a while, you can set that expectation as well, and then you can kind of lead back into it. So that if you did have to go away for a while because of any reason, and that happens in business, sometimes we have to walk away from certain business ventures, leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger, and then kind of work your way back into it, on last week's episode, and you kind of jump back into it with that, and then ease into it and start to re-engage your audience instead of just jumping back into it like nothing has changed or you weren't gone for the past 6 months.
That's really great. I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna see how the cliffhanger techniques work there. And about email autoresponders, I think that the best thing that's ever been done with that is the ability to schedule emails, right? Because people always talk about being able to broadcast right now, or being able to have that follow-up sequence where someone gets something on day 1 or day 3 or day 5. But the best thing, it's such a good feeling. I don't know about you, Tom, but when I have in my email autoresponder, and I know that if I don't even if I just sleep in all day tomorrow, an email will go out. If I sleep in on Monday, an email will go out. And I love having the email, the timed broadcasts in there ahead of time. And I also love the ability, and I didn't realize this for years, that autoresponders have that sent folder. So I know that for me, like, I would always be stuck about, well, I've got to do my broadcast, I got to do my follow-up sequence. And I thought to myself, well, I just need to worry about the broadcasts for now, and then have the time broadcast for later if I want to get a little bit ahead of it. And then when I come back to make that follow-up sequence for new subscribers, I can just go into that sent folder and then pick around and find things in there. So do you think that, so having said all that stuff, like, do you think that people have trouble writing their emails, and do you think there's an easy way to get those broadcasts lined up so that way the follow-up sequence sort of takes care of itself?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people do challenge with writing. I think that, one of the best things you can do is look at that sent folder and look at performance of those emails. So if you have certain broadcasts with really high open rates or click-through rates, you can consider that you were doing something right with those emails. And you can start to dig in and kind of see, well, this subject line was a short subject line that asked a question. So that must have kind of sparked the curiosity of my audience, and that's why I have a high open rate. So you can take that and either replicate it or, like you said, repurpose that email in an automated sequence so that new subscribers who never saw that email to begin with, if it's evergreen content or relevant content, they'll get that at some point in their automated sequence. So I think repurposing emails is definitely a thing to consider, especially if your specific emails don't talk about anything, super current or, talking about the exact date or a timed promotion. I definitely recommend that. The other thing that I definitely recommend is trying to keep your emails short to begin with. So if you are struggling as a writer, write conversationally. First off, don't try to write super academically. Write like you're writing to a friend or you're writing a personal note, and don't be afraid to keep it short. I always tell people, if you're not a natural writer, don't stress out about length in emails. Keep it short, keep it engaging and conversational, and then hopefully that will help you kind of overcome some of those struggles.
I love it. And you're making me think back to when I first met the guy who's my business partner now. We've been in business for 9 years. His wife subscribed to my list just to like sort of see what us internet marketer guys were doing. And he walked into the room one day and she was like typing away some email, and he was like, well, what are you doing? And she says, well, your business partner sent me an email, so I'm responding to him. And it turned out that she was subscribed to my list, and she thought that I was actually sending a personal email because I sort of went into it with that mindset that you described of, instead of trying to be academic or be lengthy, just writing to one person. That way, that still makes me laugh a little bit, where it was like she thought that the email was just to her, even though there was an unsubscribe sequence, but it was just like written in that way. So you're saying keep it short, and then look at your click-through rates and things like that, so you can see what played well, so that way you can reuse it. And as far as writing those emails in the first place, do you have any favorite go-tos for that sort of thing? Like you mentioned asking a question, or like, if you're struggling to write even a short email and you're looking at the blank screen, you're not sure where to begin, do you have any usual prompts or types of emails that you like?
Yeah, definitely. I always fall back on asking really good questions. And I think that this is great if you're just getting started, or if the volume of your subscribers is not super high yet. And it kind of doubles too as a good deliverability tip. If you have in your first or second automated sequences of automated emails within your sequence a really strong question, and it feels personal, and it feels like you said, it feels like that person just sent me an email. They opened up Gmail one day and decided to send me a message asking me a question, you'll feel more compelled to answer that question. And the act of responding to that question, it has the tendency to send good signals for deliverability, because it shows your ISP or your email client that you're reading, you're engaging, and then you're responding. So the act of replying to an email could be really helpful for deliverability, especially with that specific person. So I always recommend that, and you'll get really good feedback back from your subscribers based on the question that you asked. So if you asked a question like, what's your favorite food? You might not get the best feedback. But if you ask a question like, what are you struggling with right now in your business? Or what is the best product that you've purchased in the past 6 months that helped you do X? Like, you can ask really insightful questions that will help kind of shape future emails and then also shape future products that you might develop or pitch as well. So asking a great question is good. And I always also recommend to remember that the people who are just joining your email list, they are brand new to you and to your brand. They might have been lurkers of your content. They might have been kind of checking you out here and there. But when they make that engagement to sign up for your email list, whether you're giving them an incentive or they're signing up for like a mini course or a course, they're brand new. So I always recommend what I call the greatest hits mixtape. So I'm sure you remember cassette tapes back in the day. It was a really fun thing to put together kind of personalized mixtapes for people where you picked all your favorite songs and you put them into one mix or one tape. I recommend sending an email that takes your 3 or 4 best pieces of content, the best things that you've done from your own personal archive, and including those in an email within your automated welcome sequence as a way to show people this is some of the best stuff that I have to offer. You might have seen it, you might have not, but I want to make sure that you catch this. And it's an opportunity for you to put your best self forward for those new subscribers and give them something of value for free that they can engage with.
Oh, there's some great tips there as far as ask the question, keep it simple because they're brand new to some of this stuff, and then do things to impress them off the bat so that way they get used to you, because like you said, they might have been lurking for a while and they just recently took that next step to sign up with you. And I love it how if we're stuck about making that initial follow-up sequence to treat it as the greatest hits mixtape, and I'm sort of at that point right now where I'm overdue to rebuild that initial follow-up sequence. It's been maybe 2 to 4 years since I redid that, and since then I started a podcast. And I think in the past, or I think right now, that initial follow-up sequence hits some offers and some old blog posts, but I need to go back and get that filled up with some podcast episodes. And I always forget in my autoresponder sequence to move the traffic around to promote my Kindle books, or say subscribe to me on YouTube, or say get there on my my social media channel. So that really helps as far as us getting some new ideas for things with content there. And so as we're getting to wind things down here, do you see any sort of missed opportunities when it comes with email marketing? Because I mean, as you know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff we could do, right? But sometimes I look at things like, well, I haven't moved over to HTML email yet. I'm not tracking opens. I'm not doing email split tests. So is there anything that you think that maybe was a bright, shiny object a few years ago that nowadays is becoming more important?
Yeah, definitely. I would say advanced automation. What we would have called advanced automation maybe 3 or 4 years ago has become, advanced is a scary word. It's actually much more accessible these days. So one great example of how you can get started with automation in a super easy way is when you sign up for an AWeber trial, you get 30 days of AWeber. And what we do is we send you an initial email that asks you in the email to kind of let us know what is your experience with email marketing. So if you click, I'm just getting started, we will tag you as a subscriber that you're a beginner. And if you click, I've used email marketing before, maybe I'm migrating from another platform, we will tag you as a more advanced user. And from there, we'll send you we have 2 distinct autoresponders, 2 distinct automated campaigns. So one will go out to beginners and one will go out to advanced users. And if you don't make any selection, you'll get kind of a generic sequence. So I think it's important as marketers to remember that when we talk about the right message to the right person at the exact right time, not everyone who joins our list is going to need the exact same message. So using simple click automations to say, hey, if you click this link, get this sequence. And hey, if you click this link, get this sequence. It used to be, that was a daunting thing to think about and a daunting thing to get started with. And the tools have made it so easy and accessible to visualize and then also set that up. So I would say branching campaigns or branching automated sequences is probably the missed opportunity that I see in terms of engaging your new subscribers right off the bat with the best possible content based on their behavior, their actions within your first or second email.
Fantastic! I'm so glad that we talked here today because I'm gonna be applying that because like you said, like we have these multifaceted businesses and different people look to us for different reasons. And I mean, in my case, someone might be on my list for marketing stuff or for WordPress plugins or for motivational stuff. So I definitely need to do that segmenting, that tagging where they can get themselves narrowed down into just the right autoresponder sequence. So that way it's not just one size fits all. It's smarterly targeted, if that's probably not a word, but better targeted towards
Sure.
what it is that they're looking for. So you mentioned that AWeber has this 30-day trial, and my affiliate link for AWeber is doubleagentautoresponder.com. But I mean, if people don't want to use that, they can go to AWeber.com. But can you tell us about this 30-day trial and where people should go, and I guess what's the reason to get that AWeber account set up now rather than later?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the main reasons to get started today is exactly what I just talked about. So we have this click automation technology that you can jump in, and it's so easy to get started with it. You can sign up for a 30-day trial with AWeber, hop right in, set up your first email list. If you have subscribers, you can import those. They don't have to reconfirm. You can just bring them right in. And then you can set up your automated sequences. You can start off with one if you're comfortable with that, or you can do this branching logic that I just mentioned. It's super easy to do, and we have live phone support so that if you need to give somebody a ring and have a few questions answered, you can do that too.
Super awesome. And then I guess, so one final thing here is that something, as you know, sometimes nasty rumors get started. And so something I'm just now realizing is when I would recommend things like AWeber, they would look at that tiered pricing and they'd say, oh, well, I don't like how the more subscribers there are, the more I have to pay. And I'm thinking, well, that tiered pricing is a great thing once you get on that page, because after, when you look at the 30-day trial, but then there's like the monthly fee, and the more subscribers you have, the more you pay. But I'm saying, well, if you have that number of subscribers, that's a good problem to have because you have a ton of subscribers for your list. You're making money, so you can justify that higher monthly cost. But have you seen or have you heard of any of those sorts of buying objections like I've heard from people where when they go to get an autoresponder such as AWeber and they see that the more subscribers you have, the more you pay? Do you have anything to say to sort of quiet those objections there?
Well, one of the things that we really stand by is that all of our features are included under that pricing. So our pricing is tiered pricing by subscribers. So we like to hope that you're finding a lot of value from the product and the features that we offer. So as your subscriber count grows, the income that you're generating with email marketing is also growing to really justify, that growth. But we include all features. So when we release really awesome new automation features, whether you're paying $19 a month or if you're in the free trial, or you're paying $149 a month because you have 25,000 subscribers, you're always going to get access to the same levels of support, live support, phone support. You're always going to get access to the same product features so that you can do really awesome things.
Fantastic. Well, everyone, thanks for the answer on that. So the place to go to get that 30-day free trial is AWeber.com. And as we're about to close things up, Tom, do you have anything new and interesting on the horizon? Any new fun features coming out that you feel like sharing?
Yeah, we're just continuing to innovate with automation. We have a lot of really cool things in the pipeline, probably stuff that I would get in trouble if I start talking about on a podcast. But we're looking to do really exciting things with the way that AWeber can interact with your specific website. So we're looking to kind of bridge the gap between an email service provider and your actual website itself. So a little cryptic, but we're really excited about some of this stuff we're cooking up.
Well, fun stuff. Well, I'm excited too, and there's just, as you said, there's so many crazy email marketing opportunities, like or automation opportunities, like I've log in. There's been some like websites, like membership sites or services where when I logged in for the first time in a while, I got an email, or I get an email and I click on a link, and then I'd go and check out the website, and then as soon as I left, I'd get a second email saying, hey, thanks for checking out the website, or something else waiting for me back there in the inbox. So, I mean, yeah, I'm excited about some of these automation solutions that you see being implemented, and even more excited to see what AWeber comes out with next. So once again, everyone, that's aweber.com, AWeber. Get that free trial, build a list. You're crazy if you're not building a list, because every successful business has one, and email marketing is what you need to be doing. It's been around forever. It probably will be around forever, even with all these distractions. So aweber.com. And thanks so much, Tom, for stopping by and just giving us a ton of great useful information. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Want to listen to more fantastic Marketers of the Day? Subscribe to us at marketeroftheday.com/iTunes and browse past episodes at marketeroftheday.com.